Last time on You Had Me at Bigfoot. No, listen, 99% of my correspondence on Twitter is negative. Like, if you've ever looked at
I
my...
know. I look at you, and then I tag you. When I'm in an argument with someone on Twitter, I tag you looking for some support.
And I don't rarely ever show up.
I don't get it. I'll text you like, dude, I'm getting slaughtered. I need you.
And what I'll do is I'll see it, and I'll go and I'll check out the thread, and I'll be like, nah, he's got this under control. But meanwhile, it's like, you motherfucker! You stupid piece of shit. And you're like, help! Help me! And I'm like, oh, he's fine. He's got it. Under control.
911, what's the emergency? Yeah, this is Travis down on Bray Road. My dad went missing a couple days ago. And Travis, is your dad Hank by any chance? Yeah. He's been missing for about 2 days. And Travis, I'm just going to have to ask you to come down to the station. We'll fill out a missing persons report, and then we'll get all our deputies on it. Well, that's the thing is, we think he's not missing anymore. We think we know where he is, but you might still want to get all the deputies down here. I'm not quite understanding you here, Travis. Well, he, I think he went after the Bigfoot. Oh, jeez. And I think he found him. Not again. And I think he's trying to wage a war. Jesus Christ, Hank.
You're listening to You Had Me at Bigfoot with your hosts, Tom. I wanted to be able to fit in. And Dustin.
Well, this is fake-ass news.
Joined in the studio by Ryan.
Those assholes never shut up.
And Jim.
Go eat a big bowl of poop, bitch.
Remember to check out our Twitter at You Had Me Podcast. Find us on YouTube, You Had Me at Bigfoot Podcast. Or on our website, www.youhadmeatbigfoot.com.
Yeah, we're like the slums of podcasts at this point. the dark alley. You go around the corner, you're like, hey, what's the deal with Sasquatch? Does he motorboat other Sasquatches?
How big is Sasquatch's dick? I need to know.
No way.
Yeah,
There's a guy who talks about it.
Well, I know that guy because doesn't he have a Bigfoot dick?
He claims to have a Bigfoot dick.
That's right. But he also shoots videos of like women shitting behind his van. So like, and his dog or his channel was originally opened as like a dog training video or something. So
that's what it's called, dog training.
That's right. But he's a Bigfoot guy now because Bigfoot.
He's watched Bigfoot jerk off.
This guy. We need to get that guy.
We need to get that guy on the show.
What did it look like, man? I need to know.
We need to contact that guy and get him on the show.
Yeah.
What's his name? Do you remember?
If you go to YouTube and search You Had Me at Bigfoot, he comes up with our search engine.
Does he?
Yeah.
Up for a little while.
He's Peter Kane Dog Training.
Anyways, I guess we can get started without... But I love how he's the one who's like, hey, you guys could always have me on. I'd love to be on with you. And then he's the one who doesn't show up. He gets us all set up to where we're like, okay, we're ready for you, Mattsquatch. And then he doesn't answer. Tonight we're going to be talking about something that's, I think, been on all our minds at least a time or two. How does Bigfoot...
have sex?
Yeah, how does Bigfoot knock boots? So how does he knock big boots?
It's obviously a question that we've all thought of at some point. Everybody wants to know.
Not only will we be talking about this, we have a special guest who will be joining us, who is actually the resident expert on Bigfoot sex. And he will not put this segment on his show because his show is way too highbrow for this sort of thing. So he came to us to talk about it. We're going to be talking with the real Mattsquatch, and he is going to present us with Bigfoot sex facts. So you're out in the woods, and you're having a good time out in the woods, as you often do in these hypothetical situations, these theoretical questions, and you stumble upon a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And a Bigfoot, he's going to town on a lady Bigfoot.
Okay.
How is the Bigfoot getting it done? How
I
do you
instantly
think?
pictured him like munching box. Like he's chowing on beef, dude.
Do you think Bigfoots do that?
Do you want to know what
Because I think
in my world, Bigfoot is missionary styling the shit out of this lady Bigfoot with his fingers up her butthole.
Okay, how many fingers?
That's the question.
That's the question.
We're going to solve this tonight.
How many fingers does Bigfoot put into his lady Bigfoot partner's Bigfoot hole?
Yeah.
Right?
Or, I mean, I guess he could be doing her Bigfoot style instead of doggy style. And really jamming the fingers in there.
So there's
two
the
fingers.
question. Oh, okay, there's the answer.
Well, I said fingers showed a hand. Well, look at these fingers, though.
Yeah, we're talking Bigfoot fingers here.
So what about? I love how Feats gets on, and all of a sudden, like the hearts are just blowing up because he's sitting there tapping on it. I guarantee it. God bless Fetusberry. Let's throw him a shout out. Everyone needs to go check out Nothing in Particular podcast. They are on iTunes. They are on. If you go to @NIP podcast, so that's @Nothing in Particular podcast. Shorten it down to just NIP. So. Oh, we got welcome Asswipe Steve. It's his first time on here, so and he called us adult virgins. So welcome to the show.
Burn.
See, that's exactly the type of fan that we need. We need more of those people. And I like how Mattsquatch hops onto the video, but not onto the call.
No, yeah. This
we're waiting for
this show requires Mattsquatch.
He's logging in to watch us on Periscope. You're supposed to be over here on the other side of the counter.
Oh, we have a troll. We have a troll! We've been talking about this.
We finally have our troll.
Hello, have a troll.
Boys. Mattsquatch, you need to get on the call. Listen up. Get over here. But, this guy's talking about your double chin.
Oh, yes, yeah.
He can't see my double chin. He can't see mine because I've got the beard covering it. So, rest assured, Asswipe, I also have one. These dudes blowing each other right now.
You're making our day because we were talking about not having a troll.
Which massage parlor you crank dudes at? All of them, personally. I'll just take whoever takes me.
If I see a massage parlor, I go in there
and crank dudes off. Okay. How many fingers do you use with the other hand?
2. It's just general.
So that might be
unless they ask for 3 or 4.
Didn't they also? Was this the same guy who answered the question before, or was that someone else? I think that might have been someone else. Anyways, here we go. We got a visitor on the call.
Yeah, I think James is on too. It says he's on, but I haven't heard him. If you guys heard James.
What was that?
It's Matt.
Hey guys. Yeah. 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 Hello, boys.
Hey,
hello, boys.
There is no 7-Eleven in Hebron. Just to be clear, there's no 7-Eleven in Hebron. It is, in fact, a Kroger.
Yeah, you can go behind the Kroger, and we'll be back there.
And there's a lot of space behind that Kroger.
Yeah. So the old Handy J.
If I can make you have an erection and puke at the same time, then I think I've done my job tonight. So.
Well, we've been trying to stall for you because it's 9:31, and I thought I said 9 o'clock. Maybe I said 9:30, but typically we're the ones who are late. So, but we've been
you said
stalling.
You were going to give me information, and you never did, and I never heard anything back. And the only reason I discovered you guys were online is I went cruising through Twitter and see your guys' faces on there. So, it's still your fault.
No, I'll take the blame for this one. But so we're already on. We're already rocking and rolling on the Periscope. We got people who do people mistake your number as weight. You guys got to keep up on the Periscope because this dude is on here and he's got some pretty good insults. We have our first troll, Matt. We were just talking about this earlier.
Oh,
we have our first troll.
Is it like a mountain troll or like a cave troll?
I don't know. I couldn't. I couldn't tell you. We have somebody from Chicago. We have We have somebody else from I don't remember where, but I mean we got people from all over the place. I don't know where this troll originates, but we welcome him. He's a basement troll. Pete says he's a basement troll.
Oh,
it's Grossberger from Stir Crazy. So, anyways. Yeah, we're happy to have him. Asswipe Steve. We've also got Feats on the call. We got a couple other people who are listening in, but let's dive right into it, Matt. We've already kind of laid the groundwork for what we're going to be talking about today about Bigfoot. sexual positions and graphic sexual Bigfoot stories. So,
well, I was just going to kind of talk generally about Bigfoot sexuality. And in my years of research, some of the more bizarre things I've heard about things that they do and things that they do to other animals and things that they do to people and whatnot. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about here, and it seems perfect for your program.
Yeah, no, this is our bread and butter. This is how we make our money, is talking about Bigfoot wieners.
Butter. Okay, well, what do you want to start with? You want to start with some kind of general stuff, some of the stuff I've heard over the years that I think is interesting, and then we'll get on to some of the more bizarre stories?
Let's start with just a very simple question. And this is what we started out with. You were walking through the woods, and you happen upon a Bigfoot and a lady Bigfoot, getting down in the bush, in both bushes, and...
In the bushes of love.
In what position are the Bigfoots getting down?
Well, it's got to be doggy style for one. I mean, that seems to be default for most critters. You see a couple toads and one's on top of the other one. That, and I could also see them. I could see Mrs. Foot spread eagle on a rock. I don't see them laying on the ground very much, and I don't see Mrs. Foot being very happy that Bigfoot, being 800 or 1,000 pounds, is completely on top of her, and I'm sure he doesn't smell great either. So yeah, I would say it's probably doggy style. You're probably just going to see him bending over Mrs. Squatch. He's probably got a beer in one hand. It's just how I picture it.
Would it still be called doggy style, or would it be called Bigfoot style?
Yeah.
There's a common question here on the Periscope.
What's that?
People want to know if Bigfoot's penis is retractable.
Well,
is it a red rocket? Does Bigfoot have a red rocket?
Well, very, very interesting. I've heard a lot of encounters and people I've talked to who have seen him up close, and they actually say that Bigfoot has a rather small penis. That
it's small.
How ironic!
Bigfoot has a small penis.
Don't tell him I said that. He's going to come show me, and I'm not going to like it. But there are lots of stories where people are like, "Yeah, I was driving into my driveway, and there was like this 8 or 10 foot tall Bigfoot standing there, and I could see it was male."
So these people, when they pull into their driveway, the first thing that they look at is the Bigfoot penis.
Well,
that's what I would look at.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't you? You're like, holy crap, it's Bigfoot. Hey, he's got a tiny wiener. I mean, wasn't that the first thing you would do?
Well, me personally, yes, probably. But I'm also a sick degenerate who is a co-host on a show about this sort of thing. So first thing I'm doing is looking for the penis. Yeah.
Well, okay, there is one story that comes to mind. This lady lived out in the country. I think it was in Ohio, actually. And she had them on her property, and they were coming around. And she used to see them all the time running across the road and peeking into windows at night and doing all the, creepy-ass Bigfoot stuff that they do. And she said she pulled in the middle of the night, and the headlights illuminated, and her driveway, the motion sensor light came on, and this Bigfoot was standing, like, right there. She was in a car, and it was standing right next to the window. So the only thing that was separating this woman's face from Bigfoot's dick was a little bit of glass. And she says this thing was this huge, massive thing of fur, like the whole Bigfoot itself. But she says, you know what? Surprisingly, she's like, and it was kind of an older lady, and you can tell she's not like, she's not like a weirdo like one of us. She was just kind of, very understated. She was like, well, I have to say it wasn't as big as you would think for as large as the creature was.
So I'm trying to imagine she's on the other side of this glass, and there's a Bigfoot putting it right up on the glass for her. Like, well, that's a tiny penis.
It also could have been cold out in the Bigfoot's defense.
Well, that's what Feets was saying. He said he probably just got out of the pool. So that's
yeah. It was probably an older lady, and he just wasn't very excited. I don't know. So
it's hard to get a Bigfoot around.
I've actually heard that from a number of people that have seen Bigfoots up close, male ones especially, obviously, that they have rather small genitalia. And if you look at chimpanzees and gorillas, most of them actually have proportionately pretty small genitalia.
You know what? And we were talking about that the other day, about how you said that the monkeys, they got the small penises. And I even said, I don't think I've ever seen a monkey's penis, ever. And it just so happened. Remember when I sent that picture about the baboon with the hyena, and they were like walking them through the city? V, I think I was showing it to you, but the first thing you see on that baboon is the tiny penis.
Yeah, well, they got tiny penis and huge balls. You know, it's just like most ape species, especially when they're in season and they're all pent up and ready to go, kind of thing. But all the pictures I've ever seen and all the times I've been to the zoo, when you notice that kind of thing, it's very small. Now I don't know if it gets bigger or what the mechanics are of it. I've never been that close to an ape penis before, but but that's one thing that I've always heard from Sasquatch encounters is
Are you guys reading some of these? I don't mean to interrupt, but are you reading some of these comments?
I am. I'm trying to keep up, but I can't see the names, and I wish I had the ability to see the names without getting my big greasy face up on it. And so if I quote you or whatever, it's not that I'm ignoring who you are. I can't tell that far away without getting all up in there and you seeing my gross pores on my giant nose. So I'm just like, if I quote you or say something, know that I'm I love you to death for asking those questions.
When you put it that way.
I've watched a monkey jack off before.
Have you? I saw a monkey use a frog to jack off.
No, I was in Africa, and we would give this monkey a banana, and it would jerk off while I was eating the banana. I'm not kidding.
Is that why you do it now?
Yeah.
But
apparently this monkey jerks off with a banana. At the same time, and eats the banana. Jerks off and eats the banana.
I was deployed in Africa, and I went to like an animal refuge. And
Did you show it how it's done?
No. You just gave this thing a banana, and it would jerk off.
Yeah.
But it would go.
That's debunked.
That's nice.
Did it eject?
No, it blew a load. It blew a load.
Don't they like throw their jizz at people too?
Well, no, he
Jerk off in their hand and they throw it. They do that.
Why do you think Dustin kept giving him a banana?
That's Hannibal Lecter's cellmate.
I was like, we're gonna finish this, little fella. We're finishing this shit.
Oh, don't get it in the hair.
Oh, you guys are sick. It's awesome.
I want to know how Jameis is doing. We haven't had a Jameis on the show, and it feels like a decade. It feels like forever, man. How you been, Jameis?
Oops, wrong chord. I've been good.
You should have been more prepared for this.
Do you have a song for Bigfoot jerking off?
Well, I think he's going to do a song about how things have been going for him.
Oh.
Yes.
No, that's how I do every intro. Whenever I walk into a room, I do that.
That's why he's always got the
my
guitar.
entrance music.
You just say strum and wrong chord.
I will. I've got. It's not now's not the time though for the Bigfoot whacking it song.
Well, let's start with the Bigfoot whacking it song. I think this is the perfect time for a Bigfoot whacking it song.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I just wrote it like 10 seconds from now, so we'll. All right. I hope everyone's ready. There's a lot more pressure now. We've got
people actively listening. Yeah. We have four
We've
people
got nothing in particular watching, and I've never met them.
There are folks at home watching.
I'm going to be honest with you. This song is nothing in particular, so.
was amazing.
The best part, like this went the natural arc of James's songs. It starts out real strong, it kind of goes, and you're like, okay, where's he going with it? Where's he going with it? And then it ends on a Tom insult. So I appreciate that you
There's no
maintained
other way
that.
to end the song.
Well, you have to stick with what works, and
Yeah, I mean, you know, don't mess with success.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tom's got it covered behind Kroger. Exactly. Feats. Bringing back the old jokes from earlier in the episode. I appreciate. You know what? We need more of this. We need to do this more often, where we can have people. You know, we normally do that. We normally go full circle and start talking about John Podesta. Why are you logged in? Oh, so you can call it.
Me?
No, all of a sudden I see Dustin logs in. I was like, what are we? Why are we on the show now?
It's like the max point of vanity is you're like watching yourself logging into yourself, like talking to yourself.
He's calling in his own podcast from his own phone from the side.
He's calling in himself.
So where were we? Bigfoot penis.
It's like,
something.
A question on Periscope.
So we were talking about Bigfoot's wiener being small, which is actually kind of funny. Because my wife alluded to something about that the other day, and I was like, I made some wisecrack joke about Bigfoot's dick, and she just kind of shrugged and said, Bigfoot, big weenie, and walked away. And I was like, how long had she been thinking of that? Which really had me kind of disturbed. So I think we were looking at tracks, like 16, 17-inch tracks, like really, really Bigfoot tracks, and she's like, wow, that'd be a really big weenie. I'm like, holy crap, honey. I'm sorry, I'm a disappointment. So.
Meanwhile, Mattsquatch has what size shoes do you wear? 7s, something like that.
8 budding kids, so whatever that is.
I wear a size 7, but I know how to make it feel like an 8.
I wear thick socks, if you know what I mean.
I'm interested to know if they're big. If the Bigfoots are big on, like, you know, fellatio and cunnilingus. Do they go downtown? Do those guys go downtown, you think?
No, because they don't really have showers or any devices to keep that stuff clean. And yeah, I think even a Bigfoot has standards. So that, and from what I've heard, most Bigfoots have like a clan or a family group where there's mom and dad.
So they don't brush anything out before, you know, Mr. Bigfoot goes down there?
No. I don't think they have spring rain juice bottles hanging out in the woods. So, especially in the summer when everything's real dry and real sweaty. So
Sasquatch Eve. They don't have anything like that.
Exactly. So I mean, they could probably take a squirrel and, you know, shove it in there and twist it around or something. But,
just the tail. Come on.
So they're big on toys. They have
well, pine cones. What do they got? Pine cones, large sticks.
Well, you got to think they're huge, so it's got to be like rocks and raccoons as opposed to like beads and gerbils. You know,
they could use a rattlesnake.
You know?
They could take a rattlesnake,
get it all pissed off,
shove that rattler in there, and they got a little nature-made vibrator.
It works.
I hear that's a dare when you're a teenage Bigfoot with all the other boys. Dude, bitch, can't get that little rattlesnake up your ass.
In the locker room, they pin you down and they put the rattlesnake tail up into you, and that's just it's classic hazing. It's just regular hazing for Bigfoot.
Yeah, I knew we were going to go kind of blue, but I didn't think it was going to descend into darkness this quite so fast. I actually had a lot of legitimate stuff I wanted to talk about, but
well, let's get back to it then. Let's get back to the somewhat legitimate stuff, and we'll take it off course every now and again.
Yeah, come on, guys, pretend to be serious.
Okay, everybody, pretend. Hold it together for a few minutes. Pretend this is a job interview, or your wife's talking to you, and you're really trying hard to, you know, to pretend to listen. Whatever, you know, just focus. Okay. So, back to what you're saying. Like, so Bigfoot sexuality. They're kind of, since they live in family groups, from most people have seen, or clans as they've called them, where you've got like an alpha and a alpha male and an alpha female. Then you're going to have the kids, and then you might have like an aunt or a cousin. But pretty much what has been observed is kind of like very similar to like how gorillas live and chimpanzees live, where you have like a big alpha, and they seem to be fairly monogamous from what I've heard. And there's a lot of like what you would expect intimidation. The older males try to chase away all the horny young males from the women or from other clans and other tribes. Because if you're a 16 or 17-year-old Bigfoot, you know, you're 7.5 feet tall and you got more hormones than, I mean, you pretty much go screw a rock at that point and be happy.
I've done that before.
Not surprised. Well, you guys are in what, Kentucky? I'm judge. So they are known to do in family groups, but you got to remember, so you get a couple of horny Bigfoot boys going out and they go to the next family or next clan over.
I guess not, huh? He's not much of an orgy guy.
Yeah, well,
I feel like Bigfoot would have some,
Put the keys in the basket.
Bigfoot swinger parties.
There's probably a certain amount of...
Everybody gets wasted and, licks asshole, basically.
that very well could happen. You're probably out eating the wrong mushrooms, and before you know it, it's, they get all San Francisco in there. It's all getting, it could get very weird. But, from what I have heard from people who've had them on their properties or large properties that have had multiple clans on there is you get the young ones from one clan, the young boys, they go over and try to get the girls from the other clan, and they're big. They're 7.5, 8 feet tall, 500-600 pounds. Well, the dad comes out of the other clan, and he's like 9 foot tall, 10 foot tall, and like 1,500 pounds. And she'll come out and wail on him, you stay away from my daughter, you stay away from my wife kind of thing. So you hear a lot of different conflicts and stuff like that, and it's actually pretty fascinating, but it seems to be kind of in line like what you would think of what humans do and their families and their kids and their daughters and their sons, and what you would observe like in chimpanzee troops and in gorilla troops. So it seems like there's a lot of parallels there. What's going on, guys?
So we had a question on here.
Okay.
Are there gay Bigfoots?
I'm sure there are.
Is that something that you've come across in your reading?
Actually, no. But I hear the pretty hairless boys like Dustin should be especially afraid in the woods, though.
Really?
You do need to be afraid of...
You hear that, Dustin?
Dustin's afraid of that everywhere.
Yeah. When I'm in the woods, normally I'm worried about being penetrated in my butthole.
Well, you need to be now.
Yeah.
You need to be concerned about being penetrated by...
Between Bigfoot now, the Wendigo.
Plus, we need to be... I guess aliens do sometimes pull people from the woods, but I think also it needs to be said that we live in kind of like nearish to Appalachia. Mm-hmm. And where did that movie Deliverance take place? That was in West Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So you do need to be watching out for that sort of thing.
He's got a guitar with it, he didn't really play it.
Good point.
Who said that was me?
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, it was.
I guess even somebody's question.
Someone just asked if we watched gay
Our
Bigfoot
viewers are
porn.
hilarious, man.
These are the kind of fans that we get by having this show. I love this. This is great. This is exactly what I want. Our fans like this.
You guys are like the Howard Stern of like the...
Okay, this guy brought up a good question about the gay Bigfoot porn. There is Bigfoot adult film out there. We've been discussing this over the past week. There's a few. Yeah. There's a few out there.
Of course, Mattsquatch has watched it.
There is Bigfoot erotica.
That was all about.
Yeah, well, I actually don't know much about it, to tell you the truth.
I wish I knew about it.
Someone needs to go home and watch this Bigfoot porn.
Tom, I'm going to assign that homework to you.
I told you, my adult film is, I'm way too backlogged on all mine, man. I gotta still catch up on just anal alone.
Well, you've still got all that tentacle. Well, you're into anime, so you got all that tentacle porn shit to worry about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the little Hello Kitty tentacle thing. Weirdos.
We're going to get blocked by Kurt Eichenwald for this episode, right?
Yeah,
if we weren't
already
already.
been blocked by that guy.
I know my personal account is blocked by him right now, but we're going to go ahead and get the show entirely blocked by him, or he's going to sue us like that time. Didn't he sue that guy for sending him a GIF or something that was flashing at him, and he had a seizure?
It gave him a seizure. He had a seizure from a GIF.
Yes!
There it is.
No, you just
That's it.
just fucked it up.
You can't even dueling banjos against yourself and win.
It's funny, Jameis would start a song, and then we're all like, a Jameis song? We're all serious and quiet, expecting something great, but, then he's like, whoa, Black Betty.
We have a question. We have an important question from the crowd, guys.
We do have an important question.
All right.
Why is some farts like, meh, and other farts like, oh my god, bro?
Well, I think V can vouch for this. It's called Taco Bell. So.
Because LOL, IMHO. That's why.
I think it has something to do with what you ate, like Mattsquatch said. So I hope that does answer your question, viewer at home. Thank you for asking. Let's move on to Mattsquatch. Let's bring our expert back on again real quick.
Yes.
What?
These are the fans we want, dude. That's all there is to it.
How many Bigfoot are in a litter of Bigfoot?
Good question.
Thank you.
You can't start any question with how many. It
On
automatically,
this
my
show,
mind
as a
goes
matter
the
of
wrong
fact,
way.
yes, you can. Like, the only question that we ask on this show starts with those words. So,
Well, let me know when you want a real response and you guys are done with your banter. So.
We're ready. Give us the response.
That the never.
Okay, everything I've heard, it seems to be one at a time. Like typical human births, you have one at a time. Occasionally, you'll hear about twins or two kids about the same age. Primates are known, the big-time primates have been known to have twins, but most of the time it's like a single birth.
So just
Any
single.
questions? And the other thing I wanted to say was the Patterson-Gimlin film, Patty, the famous Bigfoot from 1967 that everybody's seen. I got to say, she had a hell of a set of knockers on her. So the females apparently do have the secondary sexual features. They do have the breast, and I would assume that they breastfeed just like most mammals do.
Well,
And
what's the
they seem
size
like
of
pretty-
what's the size of a female Bigfoot's breast?
the size of your chest, your whole chest, son. One boob is that big.
Get out of here.
If it's 8 feet tall and it's got a couple giant McGuffies on there all covered in hair, I mean, that thing's got to be big. I mean, that thing's got to, like, if I cut your leg off and weighed it, that's got to be about as much as a Bigfoot boob, right?
sounds about right.
Yeah, especially if they're lactating.
What does Bigfoot breast milk taste like, do you think? You think it's
I think
sweet?
you just aroused Dustin.
I know, I just heard a grunt from Dustin over there.
His nipples are carving through his shirt. Look!
Do you need to pass him?
You can see his
a
nipples.
couple tissues over there, or what's going on?
You can see Dustin's nipples on the periscope right now. Look. Oh,
Yeah, you could grate cheese on those things.
we could cut diamonds with Dustin's Bigfoot nipples.
You can cut a block of cheddar in half. One of those bad boys.
So,
No, you guys are all of you bastards are married with kids. I'm like the only one. I'm the
how
only
James
single
is
one
on
out
there trying to
Trying to hook
James
up.
is trying to, yeah, he's treating this like it's Tinder. Jamma's Periscope is not Tinder. Our Periscope show is not yours. Plenty of fish, all right?
No, I'm treating it like everything. I'm trying to make money here too.
Okay, it's pretty much like high school or prison. The sex that you're going to get on here, you don't want, and the sex you don't want, and the sex you want, you ain't getting, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would not use this as a dating pool. Pretty much like the old Groucho Marx thing. Any club that'll have me be a member, I don't want to be a part of. So, for girl knows he's a huge fan of the
I
show.
don't get these heart things here. What do these hearts keep popping up on the Periscope?
Well, it's because Feets keeps clicking on it because you do that when you like what's going on the show. You can tap the screen and it will make little hearts appear.
Oh,
And
I see.
And it feeds our
I can do
egos.
I thought that was the
Bam, look at that.
erection meter or something.
You guys see that right there?
So I think we've gotten everything as far as
We talked-
Bigfoot penis.
Okay,
All
so
right,
we talked
I
about
do
the
have one
general-
for you, Mattsquatch. I do have one for you. So we all know of bestiality, and it's disgusting, and it should be illegal. It's not in most places. Canada, for instance. Canada, we're looking at you. Having sex with an animal is almost... It's illegal in a lot of places.
But if you have sex with a woman who she's technically an animal,
But that's something else. I'm sure it's covered in the legislation. But what I'm saying
Don't
is...
justify it, Dustin.
So if if I were to have sex with a Bigfoot, a woman Bigfoot.
Why's it gotta be a woman Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Because
let's
I'm not into there being another dick in the room. That's a personal preference. It's nothing against people who do like having another dick in the room. I'm just saying I personally don't like.
Dustin?
I don't like being. Well, he's a eunuch.
Okay.
I personally, I like having sex one dick in the room. Okay, that's my rule. So if I were to have sex with a female Bigfoot, would it be compatible? Would I be able to make it happen? And B, would it be weird? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it would be determined on if we ever really had a scientific specimen for Bigfoot, how close they are. Because you share 98% of your DNA with a chimpanzee, and physically you're a long way from one. And you got to look at a Bigfoot. They're very similar to humans. They're just like a big overgrown human, really. A little bit different structure change. They're definitely in the genus Homo. Homo as in
Dustin.
Humans as yes. Something like an offshoot
with the Dustin insults
Homo
right now. Just right now.
heidelbergensis or-
Getting them all in that system.
Yeah. So, one, I think you would be compatible. Two, would it be weird? Fuck yeah, it would be weird. That, and I think if she got on top of you, or if she dug her fingernails into your back, or she wanted to pull you in harder or something, I don't think you would have much of a choice, and it might even kill you. So you got to think these are huge, like very strong animals. So.
These are questions I hope you guys at home.
Like
that came directly from the Periscope, by the way. It wasn't something that I personally was.
It sounded like something you would ask.
So let's hear about some. Go ahead, Mattsquatch. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sorry, I was just going to say, well, you want to get to the bestiality part of things. I got a whole story to tell you that's been kind of making its way through the internet lately, or it's been the last few years about Bigfoot and bestiality, or we'll say interspecies attempted breeding, or whatever the politically correct term is.
Interspecies erotica.
Well, I think erotica would be if you're filming it. So.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's where I heard that, not from something else. Go ahead. Let's hear that story then, Mattsquatch. That's kind of why we wanted you. We had to do the beginning of the episode to be a little bit more appropriate.
Oh boy.
Is there anyone in your crew who isn't a fat ass? James? James, I think this question's for you. James, jump on. Even James is like, nah. Nope.
Why'd you have to ask me as I was shoving a piece of pork chop in my mouth? Come on.
Well, you're the only thin-ish one, right? All right, go ahead, Mattsquatch.
Oh boy.
You're gonna have to follow this guy, so tough have to follow.
It's not fat. It's called experience, and
I'm about to level up.
Yeah, and he's probably some Reddit neckbeard guy. So welcome to the show. So one of the big stories that's going on that's kind of well known in the Bigfoot community is that Bigfoot likes horses, and I don't mean they like horses like, hey, look at the pretty pony running through the field. They like horses. And one of the things, and if you just Google search real quick, Bigfoot manes braided or tails braided, a lot of horse farmers and horse ranchers and people encountering wild Mustangs, especially in the out west out here, they would be like, well, that's really weird. Their mane has all these braids and knots and ties or feathers and flowers stuck in the manes, and the tails are all braided up nicely, but they're like, someone has a horse ranch out back and they go feed their horse every day, and they're like, there's no one else around who's something obviously with fingers and with, the wherewithal and the thought and the dexterity to actually braid or interweave feathers and things into horses' mane. So a lot of people around the country have experienced this with their horses, especially when they live out in the middle of nowhere in Bigfoot country. And there's one famous story. I forget where it is. I think it's somewhere out near you guys, like Tennessee or something like that. It might even be like East Texas, where this farmer said that he had a herd of horses, dozen horses out there, and he had one really skinny young horse, really kind of a smaller, skinny mare. And he kept finding the horse's manes all braided. And when one day he was out on his property, we're talking, hundreds of acres, those big giant sprawling ranches, and he heard this god-awful horse, god-awful horse whinny, just crying out over the field. And he was like, whoa, what was that? So he goes over there, and what he spots is like an 8 or 9 foot tall Bigfoot has got its fingernails dug into the back end of this horse and is pulling it down, its rear end, the back end of this horse, onto this Bigfoot while it's standing there. He's got to think they're tall and the horse is tall, so he's pretty much right at the right height to sink into this horse and start giving it to it. And he was just completely shocked. And I guess the horse broke loose and the Bigfoot ran away, and the horse had these like really god-awful claw marks, actual blood coming out of the claw marks on the side of it where this Bigfoot was really digging in, and blood coming out of its horse private areas. And this was a pretty documented story, and this was not like a paranormal weirdo. This wasn't somebody going out in the woods looking for Bigfoot. This was just a regular rancher, somebody who raised horses for a living and did all this other stuff, and was just like, what in the hell did I just see? What in the hell just happened to my horse? Finding all his other horses hairs being braided. And I guess this poor horse was a victim several times. It was this one particular horse, the smaller, skinnier one, that played victim to it. And one of the theories from other Bigfoot people that this was probably like a teenage male or a younger male that doesn't have his own family group and probably isn't welcome at home yet and probably on its own. And this is just a way it could go out and get its jollies. So I wanted to run that story by you guys.
Wild horses couldn't drag me away. Wild horses couldn't drag me away.
Well, from what I've heard, they were dragging the horses away.
So the trick to, if you ever commit that sort of atrocity, is to just braid their hair afterwards.
I think they were doing it before, the whole grooming thing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Here's an apple, let me braid your hair. Let me just get behind you for a second. It's just like all those jokes about ranchers and sheep herders and stuff like that, and goat herders, and that stuff really happens. Humans really do terrible things to animals, and you can imagine that something like a Bigfoot being all pent up and doesn't know any better, and they don't have a sense of right or wrong like we do. So I mean, it seems like a very believable story, and there's been multiple accounts of things like this happening across the U.S. So it was one of those like kind of pretty out there stories, but I thought it was absolutely fascinating.
So basically what you're saying here is Bigfoot is like a pansexual. He like bangs other species. Is that what's happening here?
I've also heard similar stories of Bigfoot doing the same thing with cows. Where they hear god awful moos coming from the other end of the pasture, and then there's a cow walking away all bloody or something like that. But so I mean, from what I've heard, if you've ever seen a horse dick or a bull's dick, they're huge. And from what I've heard of a Bigfoot's penis, like we discussed earlier, being fairly small, I mean, smaller and proportionate, like I don't think that that's what's doing damage. I think it's that they're just a big, strong creature. And I think it's the, digging into fingernails and pulling and hitting and, that kind of a thing. I think that's probably really damaging to these animals.
It's not the size, right? That's how the old saying goes.
Yeah.
They were just calling you out for drinking soda on here. Did you see that?
I saw it too.
Who is it?
I don't know. So that's what's funny about this one particular character that we have on here. Their name is Bigfoot Schlong, and they've got V's picture as
What?
Yeah, they've got your personal picture. So it's either V or it's Jamis, which neither one would really surprise me.
So who is it?
That is impossible. How do they have my picture?
No, it's your picture from what you call it, the your current picture. So it's V.
Oh man.
Did you create a whole nother account just to troll Dustin for drinking soda?
I would.
If he was going to troll, why would he use his own picture, though?
I don't know.
It's
I
him.
think he's a little
It's
brighter
him
than that.
because he can't stop laughing. I'm like,
Oh, so he's guilty then.
look, I'm sitting here going, who is this fucking asshole right now? And then I'm like, it's V's picture, this little prick.
I noticed it at first. I saw the Bigfoot schlong, and I was like, why does it have V's picture?
And I'm like, who found our show who just so happens to have the Twitter handle Bigfoot Schlong?
That's impressive. That's a true fan, is what that is.
Oh man, my poker face is terrible.
All right, guys, we're gonna take an intermission for a minute, and we'll be right back. Are you interested in advertising on You Had Me at Bigfoot? Oh, hell no! Reach out to us at contact@youhadmeatbigfoot.com.
He's back.
We got Bigfoot schlong again. He's back on. You should have changed your picture, V. I would have never picked it up if not for the picture. So, what else have you got for us, Mattsquatch? Let's hear a story. I know there's three viewers at home who would love to hear some more about Bigfoot sex.
And one of them, their phone fell behind the couch and they don't know that it's still on, right?
No, that's me.
Okay. Well, like playing to an empty house, huh?
I'm used to it.
One of the more famous stories that's come up is, I'll kind of set the stage for me and kind of work backwards on the story, is I want to say that this one was down south somewhere, wood booger territory, and it was off.
You watch your mouth.
A lone highway into wood.
This is a Christian show.
Oh boy, the story is going to be hard.
I need you to edit out any naughty words, and that includes anything that would offend my grandmother.
Small town somewhere down in the south, and one of these backcountry roads going through the bush down there, going through the brush and the trees, and there's a creek down there. And I was trying to research before the show, but actually, believe it or not, because this story I heard a few years back. I think because I wanted to get the location kind of right.
None of us do that.
I believe that. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't worry. The Bigfoot Outlaws, they have a podcast and stuff, and they talked about this too. And I guess the police came across a really horrific scene. There was a young couple, teenagers, 16, 17 years old. They went out in the middle of nowhere. They went to this place down by this creek, a little turnout by this road, which was known as like a makeout point, or like an anal point, where the boys and girls would go down to go do things. Well, what the investigators found, and what was interesting about the story, while I was trying to find more information about it, because it's been a few years since I've heard it, and I've heard so many stories that kind of blur together a little bit, is that there was actual police documentation of what happened and everything else. So the police roll up, and they find the young man who was there with his head turned completely around, neck snapped, with no pants on. And he's like off in the bushes, like 20, 30 feet away from the car, with his neck snapped. And they find the girl on the hood of the car. She's dead. Her neck is snapped as well, but she doesn't have any clothes on, and her vagina is all split open. And she's got blood and stuff.
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
Did
like
you find another podcast?
She's just got my attention now. What? Okay, define her vagina is split open. Because I've done, as a man, I've done that before. that's not that big of a feat.
Oh my God.
I'd like to know what you mean by split open. Aren't they already technically split open?
Okay, well, if it's a 3-inch opening, now it's an 8-inch opening. If that makes you.
The old Moses is what it's called.
Yes,
right?
yeah. So they find this poor girl, blood everywhere. they find these claw marks and like broken arms and broken bones, and her fingernails are actually gouged off like she was trying to fight the whole time. And they find all these massive footprints everywhere, all over the ground, and blood everywhere. And you got to remember, these are just normal cops, sheriffs, investigators, you know, because normal people, regular people, genuinely don't think Bigfoot exists, especially down south. A lot of people think it's a Pacific Northwest thing. So when you come out there and find giant footprints and a girl split open and a guy with his neck snapped with no pants on,
You're thinking Tom Miller was here, right? That's the first thing that goes through your head.
Yeah, I wouldn't admit to anything. It's probably, I think it's still an open investigation.
Damn it! What's the statute of limitations on that? Somebody quick look it up.
There is none.
Damn it!
But yeah, it was. And the story has a lot more horrific details. I'm just trying to remember. But I remember she basically had every bone broken. I think her ribs were collapsed, and she was all split open. And they were finding different sized footprints there, and they were huge. 14, 15, 16, 18-inch footprints. And what a lot of people in the Bigfoot community think happened was that they went out there and they started doing their thing, and he had her on the hood of the car, and a couple of young horny male Bigfoots, 2 or 3 of them, came out of the woods and pulled this guy off of her and snapped his neck and said, well, now it's my turn. And from the stuff I've told you from the horses and cows and everything else, it just seems like it's a pretty horrific story. It'd be a horrible way to go.
So where is it coming from? If the Bigfoot has a relatively small penis,
I think it's just shoving and gouging
brute force.
Yeah,
maybe he fists. Maybe he fists the ladies with his big old Bigfoot hand.
How many knuckles?
Well, he's just literally punching vagine.
There are different types of Bigfoot. Maybe some of them have bigger members than others. And
which type of Bigfoot? Which type of the 4 types that you talked about on the original episode? Which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and plug that. If you haven't already, go back and listen to You Had Me at Mattsquatch. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Mixcloud. It's available on iTunes and Google Play and all the other podcast apps. Go back and check it out. You Had Me at Mattsquatch. It's a good time. He talks about all the different types of Bigfoot. Which type of Bigfoot of those 4 different types of Bigfoot has the biggest penis and is the biggest threat?
I would have to. Yeah, I would probably have to say the type 1s. The big Patterson Gimlin, the ones that have been known to get 10, 12 feet tall, just by default, being the largest species, being the grizzly bear equivalent of a Bigfoot, it's got to be pretty large. I mean, you know how I said people said relative to its size, it seemed small, but I'm sure even an average Bigfoot could probably whip something out and embarrass the average human. So, this is also the other project. I think we discussed this in the past about how Bigfoot AIDS is a really big problem. So we need volunteers to go out into the woods and see if they can get Sasquatch to wear a condom. Do we have any volunteers?
I'll do it.
Okay. All right.
James is like, I already have regular AIDS. What's the Bigfoot AIDS going to do to me?
Did you guys, by the way, I don't know if you guys, this is a sidebar here. Did you guys notice the picture that I sent on the Skype there?
This whole
I sent you. I told you about the picture. I was telling you about the face that's below Tom's.
Oh my God, what is that? Somebody did shave Bigfoot.
That's the real Bigfoot periscope right now that we need to be watching.
It's so funny because it's right there. Like every time I try to look at this periscope, I'm trying to talk to you guys, and then there's this face that's like,
yeah. That one with the sunglasses. Yeah, the one with the sunglasses is hilarious.
I think Bigfoot, we had somebody ask what kind of porn does Bigfoot watch. I think if... I
sent a link. I put a link in the
Bigfoot Sexsquatch?
Yeah, Sexsquatch.
Sexsquatch.
It's backlogged on my list of adult films is backlogged. I have to organize still all the categories.
Come on, guys. Everybody knows what Bigfoot's into. They're into foot fetish, right?
And that was one of the questions. I actually have that written on the paper.
Good one.
Does Bigfoot have a foot fetish? And I doubt the person came back to this particular periscope, but they did ask, does Bigfoot have a foot fetish?
Well, there's something in a name. They don't call him 9-inch Dustin for nothing. They don't call him Bigfoot for nothing. So.
Well, nobody calls him that, so...
She asked that question earlier.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Then you have your answer now. Bigfoot evidently...
yeah.
And Feats has been here this whole time, thank you.
That makes sense. It's logic. Logic wins again. Logic wins again, bro.
Just picture Bigfoot going to some campsite when the campers aren't looking and stealing all the bacon grease and going back to Mrs. Sasquatch and greasing up those Bigfoot feet.
All right, so what's the next story on you had me at Dirty Sex Bigfoot Stories with Mattsquatch.com?
Well, I don't really have any direct stories, but I will tell you.
Why are we talking about this? Doesn't this seem kind of sick? Now that I think about it, we came up with this topic, and now that I think about it, it's like, what is wrong with us,
You're
dude?
the guy who's going to walk... there's always that one guy who walks away from a really, horrible project that somebody's working on, like on that movie The Condemned, when that guy finally leaves. He's like, I can't do this anymore, it's sick, and he leaves. Yeah. You're that guy in this particular situation. Man.
We've gone too far.
Yeah, we probably have. Or
when even Mattsquatch is like, no, that's enough.
What I feel bad is this is somebody's first exposure to the show, and you're legitimately looking for Bigfoot stuff. Like if you just saw Bigfoot sexuality, you would kind of be some of the stuff that I was trying to talk to seriously at first. And there are some nuggets, if you will, buried in what we've been talking about there of truth and things that I've heard, but we've just been, really foul about it because we're a bunch of dudes and what do you want? But some of the more interesting stuff I've heard is from some of the Native American traditions, especially like in the Pacific Northwest and a lot of the tribes that really spent a lot of times and they're historically lived very close by the Bigfoot, some of the things that they would say about them. Like in the Pacific Northwest around Canada, around Vancouver, like the Kwakwaka Ewok tribe, they have the tales about I'm not making that name up, by the way. They talk about the Zunagwa, which is the wild woman of the woods, which is a Bigfoot, a female Bigfoot. And what she was known for was if naughty kids were out late or boys were out late, especially, this also goes back to the hairy man type stories that are told all over about Bigfoot in the United States. Don't stay out too late, the hairy man will get you. Well, the Zunagwa, their version of it, Bigfoot, what she did is she had a wicker basket. She had a basket on her back that was made out of sticks and twigs and everything else. And she would go along at night, and kids that were, playing hooky from school or being bad for parents, she'd throw the kids in the back of their basket and haul her off to her cave to eat them and do other things with them. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. And there's always been stories about the Native Americans about how women especially shouldn't go out at night because the male Bigfoots will abduct women and take them back to their place and, try to procreate with them or try to procreate, then eat them kind of a thing. Or there's been all sorts of weird stories out there where people have been abducted and lived with Bigfoot for a couple years and came back to civilization. And there's even really out there stories about people said they got impregnated by Bigfoot and had some weird half-hairy baby, but I can't substantiate any of those stories. But when you get into this subject and you start looking into it and you start looking at historical accounts, and especially when you get into encounters from like the 30s and 40s and before Bigfoot was a thing, before people knew about it, and they're like, oh, this great hairy man came and carried off my wife, and my wife came back, a couple of months later, all scraggly and hairy and scratched up and pregnant, and you're just like, well, what do you make of these stories, So there's a lot of weird stuff out there when it comes to Bigfoot and sexuality. And I don't know if I necessarily believe the crossbreeding part of it. Like, I think there might be an attempt, but I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I don't know how closely related we would be for them, and especially with the different types, if we were close enough to actually make an offspring kind of a deal.
They give birth like humans, right? They poop out their babies or whatever.
It comes out. It comes out of the vagina. Yes.
Yeah, that's what that. Just to clarify, I don't know. It's just, but
Yeah, no. They don't lay like a Sasquatch egg. Which actually that would be a really funny visual. You're out in the woods and you see this like 2 foot tall egg, and you're like, oh, Dude, don't go near that. That's a Bigfoot egg.
How big is a baby Bigfoot when it's born?
Well, that's a good question.
You never really hear about children Bigfoot, right? I mean, I don't. Yeah, well, I personally haven't.
Well, they would be called an infant because chimpanzees and gorillas, you call a baby gorilla an infant like you would a human. I'd assume it would just be like scaled down. Like for us, a really big baby is like 9.5, like extreme end of range 10 pounds. For them, a normal sized baby is probably 14, 15 pounds at birth, you know? Because that's one of those like evolution things where species that the more formed they are when they're born, the generally less intelligent they are. Kind of like with how crocodiles are like perfectly formed when they like climb out of their shell. They're just mini versions of their parents. Or how like antelope species and wildebeest, like they're born and then 5 minutes later they can run. You know, but when you get into like primates and monkeys and even bears and the more advanced mammals, the more advanced species, they have a longer infant rate. And when you get into elephants, like the gestation on an elephant, which is how long it takes from impregnation till birth, is almost like 2.5 years on an elephant or something. So the bigger, more complex the intelligent of an animal, generally the longer gestation and the longer they have an adolescence. You know, kind of like a baby bear within 2 or 3 years is almost full grown. But I mean, how long does it take to raise a human? It takes like, you know, they're at your house till they're like 20 these days, you know? And there's all these new studies now where your frontal cortex isn't really even fully developed until your mid-20s, like 21, 22, 23 years old. So
I wonder if Bigfoot babies are just as annoying as regular babies. Like they scream all the time and cry and poop and shit. And
yeah, well,
man, I fucking hate babies, dude.
Well, the
babies
difference
are the worst.
is that Bigfoot babies wouldn't wear a diaper because Bigfoot don't wear a diaper. So who cares? You know, just let them do what they got to do.
Yeah, well, it's probably the same thing we did when we were cavemen, or the same thing that monkeys and gorillas and stuff do. They poop, they just deal with it. So
I do that still.
Yeah.
I just put it wherever.
You know, you'd wiggle the pant leg a little bit when no one's looking, and it just rolls down outside the pant, and you kick it off into the distance.
I'm going to go ahead and take it away from that real quick in classic Tom fashion.
Thank you, Tom.
Does the female Bigfoot have a clitoris? And is there any sexual gratification for Bigfoot sex?
Well, I will tell you the clitoris is a myth in general. So, no. Boy, my wife's going to kill me when she actually listens to the show.
Just tell her not to listen. Say, those guys, all they talk about is dick and farts and poop and whatever.
Yeah. I would imagine that they would. From all the horrible rape stories and things we've talked about from male sexuality, I'm sure that that's what the boys and the males think about it, and I'm sure they get a certain amount of pleasure. I mean, there's a lot of natural drive to reproduce, but there's also, you know, I'm sure they do get pleasure out of it. You know, I'm sure the females aren't as interested in it as the males are, and that's typically how it is with most species. But
it's true.
Yeah, I would imagine they have a clitoris. Well, I've never been close enough to find out. So,
is Bigfoot a ass man or a boob man?
Ooh, I think it would depend on what region of the country you're in.
So is Pacific Northwest Bigfoot a boob man or an ass man?
I think they would probably be boob people because it's wet and cold all the time, and they want a big set of hairy knockers to snuggle up against. You know.
So boob man.
You know, like, you know, down in the South where it gets really hot, you know, they probably, you know, want to go hang out by the pond or something and show off that big booty. So
that big butt.
Yeah, I think
we got Bigfoot. Is that a type 1 or a type 2? The big butt.
That's a good question. The type 1s are generally really big all around. They're big, powerful creatures. So they got big butts and big legs on them anyway. So I would definitely say that that's like a type 1 because they're built really muscular.
All right. What about the skunk ape? Is the skunk ape an ass man or a boob man?
Oh, I think he'd probably take whatever he's going to get with a moniker like Skunk Ape. With a BO problem, he's probably not picky.
That being the case, I would probably say a boob man, because I'll take boob sweat over swamp ass any day.
Yeah, I think he's got a serious case of swamp ass. But then again, if you've got swamp ass and she's got swamp ass, is anybody really going to care at that point?
I don't know. It'd be. I guess it's like when you're surrounded by people who don't shower, you don't notice when you stink. You know what I mean? So maybe that's.
Yeah.
So he could still be an ass. Ape.
In general, the skunk ape is very, very popular because I actually think there's a couple things going on down in Florida.
So James, before we go, what do you have any songs before I cut the feed? Do you have any songs?
There you go. Let's get a Jameis song.
Yeah, we need a Jameis song.
We got someone from Nashville in here now, so I don't know. It's more pressure.
Yeah, no, right. Bust it out, dude. You got.
Do you
this.
have a song about the Bigfoot penis?
Yeah, whip it out.
I do.
Come on, whip out that tiny Bigfoot penis.
It just so happens I just wrote a song. 10 seconds from now.
Yeah, well, let's hear it, man.
It better not be Freebird, because the guy from Nashville is going to know.
It's a girl from Nashville.
Oh, I'm sorry. The girl from Nashville will know.
Oh, wait. No, you said not Freebird.
Well, I must be a Wendigo.
Damn it, I had my lighter out.
I'm sorry. I corrected myself. Go ahead.
It's a girl.
All right, hang on.
I corrected myself, for God's sake. Should you guys stop yelling at me?
No.
Yeah, you suck.
I'm just gonna use the 4 basic chords because I'm not feeling creative. Everyone knows the 4 basic chords.
A, D, F, and minor D.
Well, I went to the woods to try to hand out some condoms to Bigfoot. Cause I overheard that they have a raging AIDS issue. But it didn't get better, it only got worse. Cause I brought Bigfoot AIDS back to the city. That's why everyone hates me, cause I caused the AIDS epidemic in Iowa. Just kidding, it was already pretty bad here. Everyone has Bigfoot AIDS in Iowa. But it's okay now, cause they came out with a cure. The only cure is a Tom's beard.
It's true. Tom's beard is the cure for Bigfoot AIDS in Dubuque, Iowa. So
It's
that's
a
a
shame
public
it's
service
never
Like a
announcement.
separate thing.
Who wants a mustache ride?
Speaking of Bigfoot AIDS, did we ever even talk about Bigfoot AIDS?
No, we did.
I mean,
We
I've
touched
been
on it.
researching it over here.
Yeah, it's gotta
Well,
be a thing.
you of all people should have researched it. You caused the damn epidemic.
You know,
Have you ever been touched?
By a James.
it's a real shame that
Bigfoot
Tom's
AIDS.
beard can actually cure Bigfoot AIDS, but he refuses to give up any beard hair for these years. Are we done, guys?
I think so. And Mattsquatch is already at that point where he's like, I'm ready to leave. I just want I want to say goodbye at least. He's a gentleman, Mattsquatch. Okay, all right.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Mattsquatch, we thank you for coming on the show today. We always appreciate having Mattsquatch on the show. Everyone say goodbye, Mattsquatch.
Bye. Everybody stay safe in the woods.
All right, Mattsquatch.
Clench your cheeks.
All right, pucker up.
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
Hello.
Boom boom boom, no let me say well.
Hello.
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
Hello.
I say boom boom boom, no let me say well.
Hello.
I say boom boom boom, no we're about to say well.
Notice.
I can hear you just fine.
It's the Outer Brothers.
Yes.
Back in the room.
You guys okay?
Ready to rock the world with the boom. So I hope you can stand the vibration. Cause we're about to rock the entire nation.
I can hear you.
Alright? Here we go.
I say boom boom boom, no let me say well.
Technical difficulties.
That was a funny episode. What do you think, James?
I liked it.
So what do you give Mattsquatch? 0 Bigfoots, right?
Oh yeah, easily.
I don't think he exists. I think it's V. V made another account.
V has been Mattsquatch all along. It was a clever ruse he created. So what went right, James? What went right, do you think?
My first song went okay.
Yeah, you were live. You went live in front of, ones of people.
It was like 7, I think.
We had 98 viewers on one, and then we were coming up on 100, or coming up on the same amount for the other. I think this might launch your music career, Jamis, if you actually show up for the show.
Well, I finally had today off of work, I think.
Dustin's over here trying to hook up with this chick.
Oh God, no, I'm not.
One of the chicks that was on the show, or that was on the comments or whatever, he posted.
Kayla?
Is that which one? Yeah. Because it was.
But I'm writing this to a bunch of people that I saw on the show.
He writes. Did you enjoy the show? Kayla has more fun. Did you enjoy the show? And I wrote, stop trying to get in her pants. Damn, dude.
Are you guys following her?
Now we are.
Well, so is James.
Of course I did. If she really lives in Nashville, she can help me launch my career.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure that's why you followed her.
All right. Do we have to put a wrap on this thing?
It's because she's a Christian, okay?
Because I got to go home.
All right, I guess let's ramp it up because Dustin has to go home.
I can't stay up all night.
I can't either. I got to work at 7:30 and it's already 10:30.
I know.
Jamis, do you have a real song about Bigfoot's penis?
Yeah. Was that what the second song was supposed to be about? Was
I
Bigfoot's
don't know.
penis?
I don't remember what we were talking about. We were so off on a tangent or whatever. Yeah, if you want to sing a song about Bigfoot and Bigfoot sex, let's have a song about Bigfoot sex. Can you do that, do you think?
Do you want me to just wing it now or actually write a real one?
I mean, wing it now, and then if you want to write a real one, I'll attach it to the show as well.
When I am alone, sometimes I like to imagine what it would be like if just one time I could see it. Yeah, I'm talking about Bigfoot's penis. You'd better believe me when I say that I would go. Got too clear for me.
Oh, I almost spit up my dip. We can cut that. We can edit that in post, right?
We can edit that in post, yes.
Yeah, there was some dogs barking and some heavy rap beat on top of it. All right, let me start where I left off.
You'd better believe it when I say I would compare my penis to Bigfoot's penis, see if it was bigger or not, harder or not, longer or not. Maybe I could steal this girl if I could only find the G-spot. Like it or not, Bigfoot's got a tiny wiener. I know you think you know better than me, but you don't.
In real life, you mean?
I know from experience that Bigfoot likes being called daddy during sex. But it wasn't me calling him daddy, because I've got the proper term for daddy in their native language, so I just groaned. I must have insulted him or his family, 'cause he got real mad. And he broke 7 bones in my body, and they'll never recover. Luckily, they're not important bones, and I could probably live my life without them.
Good for you. You made it. We don't have to build you a prosthetic wiener or prosthetic butthole. All right. Well, thank you, James, for being on the show as always. For the first time in months that you've been on the show.
Alrighty, I'll catch you later.
Bye, Felicia.
Did Dustin leave already? Oh no, he's still there.
He's still here. All right.
Alright, I'll see you guys later.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh wait, one more thing.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, man.
Alright, later guys.
Later.
Bye, buddy.
Oh wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Carry on.
All right, we'll see you later.
Wait.
What? Next week on You Had Me at Bigfoot. Go ahead.
I want a double cheeseburger and hold the lettuce. Don't be front and son, no seeds on the bumblebee. Up in this drive-through, order for 2. I got a craving for number 9. Lock my shoes. I want some chicken up in here. In this grizzle on nizzle. Extra salt on the grizzle. Dr. Pepper, my brother. Another for your mother. Double quarter super size. And don't forget the fries.